Okay, without further ado, I'd like to introduce McGraw-Hill National Reading Consultant, Marisa Russo. Marisa has spent the last 12 years with McGraw-Hill traveling around the country to speak with reading teachers. Her passion is reading instruction, and she was a first grade teacher for several years prior to joining us. Marisa?
Thank you, Trish. Welcome, everyone. As schools transition to the Common Core standards, new terms and areas of emphasis are emerging. These are things that are and will have a significant impact on the type of instruction we deliver to our students. One that is receiving a lot of emphasis is collaborative conversations. We have 3 goals for today. The first is to explore what collaborative conversations are. The second is to understand why they are important. And the third is to share some techniques to improve and increase the amount of these types of conversations in our classrooms. We will watch video models and engage in our collaborative conversations to build understanding and group problem solve. But before we do this, let's take just a few minutes to review the Common Core standards to make sure we're all on the same page, that we all have a shared understanding of what they are and how collaborative conversations fit in. So what about speaking and listening? How do these skills fit in with the Common Core state standards? You can see the many opportunities for speech during a typical day's instructional time, from asking questions and answering questions to telling stories to more formal academic discussions such as collaborative conversations. But what do the standards actually say? With respect to speaking and listening, there are 2 major themes or categories of skills in the Common Core state standards. These include speaking and listening for comprehension and collaboration, and speaking and listening to present knowledge and ideas. What is that word I have written in red? Collaboration? Yes. A major part of the new standards and a shift in how we think about teaching speaking and listening skills in our classroom. The standards say that students should learn to participate effectively in oral interactions, integrating and evaluating information, and evaluating the speaker's message, perspective, and rhetoric. Let's look at the individual standards under speaking and listening. Comprehension and collaboration are very consistent. The grade 1 standards shown here are representative of K2, and the grade 4 standards are representative of grades 3 through 6. These are the specific grade level details for the first speaking and listening anchor standard. What is notable is the emphasis on aspects like responding to others' comments through multiple exchanges at grade 1 to linking remarks to those of peers in grade 4. This goes far beyond a student's answering a question or the simple pair share. So let's explore collaborative conversation and what they look like as we progress through the grades. Let's open our first poll to find out what everyone has on their mind about this topic. Our first question is, how do you think collaborative conversations will impact your teaching? I see most of you selected, I'm not sure. I do not understand how these are any different than those we had before. All right. Let me get to the next slide here. Let's begin by listening to Doug Fisher, actually Dr. Doug Fisher. He will discuss the nature of these academic conversations and what shifts need to occur in our classrooms to increase and support collaborative conversations.
past, we've had standards on speaking and listening, of course. I mean, that's part of the language processing that goes on in all of us. I think the difference is we're more accountable for it. We are going to see some ratcheting up to more academic conversations. In the past, it was really about developing your individual speaking and individual listening habits. I think the Common Core State Standards are really pushing us to say, these are collaborative. We become ourselves through our interactions with others. These are much more interactive and dynamic conversations, not just learning to speak and learning to listen. It's that give and take that we're looking for. And it's not just give and take with social and ideas that are uninformed. It's really about academic thinking with justification, being able to defend your position, to provide evidence for your position, and being free to say, I agree with you or I disagree with you. That we learn to disagree without being disagreeable, and we learn argumentation without arguing.
Just a quick reminder, ladies and gentlemen, since this is a webinar, there will be a little video delay in the video playback, so we will send you the links of all the videos we play today at the end. I love how Doug Fisher says one of the goals of collaborative conversation is to learn to argue without being argumentative and learn to disagree without being disagreeable. This is certainly a skill that will benefit our students when they enter the workforce as well as in life in general. The point is, when you support your ideas and opinions with facts from what you've read and from your life experiences, there is no need to be argumentative or disagreeable. You present the mountain of information and let it speak for itself. Here are some common definitions of collaborative conversations. These kinds of discussions are rich, structured conversations around grade-level topics and texts with the purpose of deepening understanding of these concepts and reading. They are academic conversations, not social in nature, following classroom talk rules and requiring problem solving. These are conversations where group knowledge building occurs. They are not playground or social talk. These conversations are substantive and require students to respond to ideas shared by their peers, asking for further evidence to support those ideas, or adding that piece of information to modify their own ideas or conclusions about text or a topic. And of course, these conversations can and should take place before, during, or after reading, during class discussions or when students are meeting with partners or in small groups. Dr. Wheatley, an author of Turning to One Another, Simple Conversations to Restore Hope to the Future, states, for as long as we've been around as humans, we have sat together and shared experiences. We have never wanted to be alone, but today we are more fragmented and isolated from one another than ever before. The simplest way to begin finding each other again is to start talking. We need time to sit together, to listen, to worry, and to dream. Conversation is our route back to one another. Let's open our second poll to find out what everyone has on their mind about this topic. Here's your question. Do your students engage in meaningful collaborative conversations throughout the day? It looks like over 50% of you say we do this frequently, but I would like additional support on how to make collaboration meaningful. Okay, let's take a look. We've talked a little bit about what these conversations are, but why are these collaborative conversations really important? We know that collaborative conversations are the types of discussions required in the workplace. They rely on evidence, experience, give and take, and knowledge building to come to a new conclusion or to solve a problem. Each member of the discussion brings unique ideas, knowledge, and perspective to the conversation. Secondly, collaborative conversations are about concepts being learned and texts recently read. Allow students to deepen their understanding and use the new academic and domain-specific Tier 2 vocabulary they are learning. And as we now know, the more opportunities students have to use newly acquired vocabulary, the more likely they will remember and use these words in future discussions and in writing, or have access to their meaning when reading future texts. Thirdly, collaborative conversations are important because of their connection to writing. The research is clear. If you can think about it and talk about it, you can read it and write about it. With the increased emphasis on analytical writing in the Common Core State Standards, using one's new understanding to express ideas in writing is a critical skill. It's a very critical skill for success in school. So how do we provide these increased opportunities to make meaning through talk? This is one of the key things the Common Core State Standards is asking us to consider, and something we are going to be brainstorming solutions for in just a bit. Students need many opportunities to engage in a variety of structured conversations about text and topics they are learning about. The discussions should engage students in meaningful dialogue that allows them to use their academic and domain-specific language and concepts, as well as learn more about the topic being explored in the classroom. But this meaning-making aspect of these academic discussions differentiates them from the more common conversations we regularly hear. This focus on academic conversations to solve problems and build group knowledge requires a shift in many of our classrooms. Why is this important? Well, we've always had speaking and listening standards with a focus primarily on teaching our students how to be effective listeners to information, as well as presenting their own information at an appropriate pace and volume and with proper eye contact. The difference now is that with the Common Core State Standards, we're more accountable for the talk that is happening in our classrooms. The talk is expected to not only mirror the kinds of conversations that the students will participate in college and in the workplace, but the kinds of conversations that deepen understanding of concepts and texts. Therefore, we need to significantly increase the amount of academic conversations happening daily in our classrooms, creating more interesting, purposeful, focused, and dynamic talk. Exactly how is collaborative conversation different from a typical classroom pair share? For example, for starters, in a collaborative conversation, students must use evidence from what they're reading, from what they're writing, and from their life experiences to justify and back up their important points. We are really expecting students to think through their opinions and their arguments to persuade or inform others. In addition, these conversations require active turn-taking, in which a student makes a claim, offers justifications for that claim, and answers to counterclaims. The biggest challenge is that in too many classrooms, discussions are still primarily social in nature. We are not hearing thinking. Rather, we are hearing opinions and simple restatements of facts. But instead of problems, we need solutions. So what do we do? The first hurdle. This one's a little tough. The first hurdle many teachers need to leap over is the concept that a quiet classroom is the only type of classroom in which productive learning is occurring. As teachers, we often equate a quiet classroom with a well-run classroom and know that many of our colleagues correlate quiet with good. But a quiet classroom does not necessarily equate to one in which learning is occurring. In fact, talk is an effective means to encourage learning. What that means is that some teachers will need to become more comfortable with a certain level of noise in the classroom. Certainly not playground noise, but productive noise where academic learning is happening. The interesting thing about collaborative conversations that teachers have discovered is that when the noise level increases during discussion, it is a key indicator that the conversation has turned from collaborative to social. Let me repeat that. When the noise level increases during a discussion, it is a key indicator that conversation has now turned from collaborative to social. In collaborative conversation, students are engaged in productive talk, searching for evidence, following their notes, and adhering to basic partner talk rules, not enthusiastically and loudly sharing personal information. So what does a classroom teacher do? Model and allow for practice. Then practice some more. New behaviors take time to take root. Be patient and keep in mind these behaviors are new for children also. Here are some few suggestions from teachers who are successfully doing this. Number one, model in front of the kids both inappropriate and appropriate conversations so students have a chance to group and compare and contrast. This will help establish common expectations for what conversations should sound like as you circulate and listen to students' discussions. Number two, you can videotape students' conversations around text read and replay them for the class to analyze for things like using text evidence or proper turn-taking to build on their ideas. Number three, you can fishbowl students. That is, have a small group of students sit in a circle or at the front of the room for a conversation. The rest of the class listens in and evaluates the effectiveness and rule following of the discussion. Number four, you can also provide conversation prompts or sentence frames as a temporary scaffold to support students going deeper and building on each other's ideas during their conversations. And five, finally, you can distribute collaborative conversation checklists or rubrics for students to self-evaluate their conversations. Let's take a deeper look at some of these ideas. I'm going to show you one teacher modeled here, both inappropriate and appropriate collaborative conversations through this use of a role play. Note how the teacher provided and posted specific guidelines for students to refer to during these conversations.
Collaborative conversations are the meaningful, interactive discussions about academic topics that occur between students. In this clip, Wiley Blevins engages students in purposeful classroom discussion to build group knowledge about a text the class is reading. Notice that Mr. Blevins provides students with clear guidelines and routines for engaging in these highly interactive classroom activities. He also uses role play to model how to conduct conversations.
Something special I want you to work on it. We've been working on it all year during our small group work is having really strong collaborative conversations. And I want to review our rules for collaborative conversations because I'm going to be monitoring that as you talk in your group. So let's read these collaborative conversation guidelines together. Ready? Number one.
Stay on topic.
Number two.
Connect your own ideas and things your partners say.
Number three.
Look for ways to connect personal experiences or knowledge to the convention.
And number four.
Follow partner talk rules.
So what are some of those partner talk rules?
What's something really important when you're talking to a partner?
Yes.
Don't interrupt.
Don't interrupt. Yes, let your partner finish their idea. Lawrence.
Whisper.
Yes, we want to talk
Talk in our inside voices.
Only your partner should be able to hear you, not the class across the hallway, correct? What else? Right.
Be respectful.
Yeah, what does that mean?
It means to not say that their idea is dumb.
Excellent. We want to remember that throughout our conversations today. Okay, so to make sure you really get the idea of what a collaborative conversation is and what I'm looking for when I'm listening in your conversations, I want to role play a collaborative conversation with one of you. So who is brave enough to be my guinea pig? Jace, you want to come on up?
Yes.
Are you brave enough?
Yes.
Great. Well, I'm going to ask you a question, and we're going to start our conversation just like you are with your partner.
Okay.
So what is an invention that you really like, and how has it impacted your life?
I like the Apple, Steve Jobs. He's the one who created all the Apple products. It's just like it's a tablet that's like a mini computer with games on it.
Do you smell hot dogs?
No?
I don't think I have hot dogs for lunch.
No, I do not. And stay on topic.
Well, I don't really like Apple and those products. What about cell phones? Do you want to talk about cell phones?
Not.
Do you have a cell phone?
Yes.
And do you like your cell phone?
Yes.
Is that more interesting than Apple?
No.
So how do we do?
Bad.
Yeah, which of these guidelines did we not follow? You may have a seat. Thank you. Alea. Right. Who broke topic? Right. I didn't answer what he was, or I didn't respond to what he was saying, so I also didn't connect my ideas to what he was saying. Any other of the guidelines I didn't follow? Deontay.
Follow partner tacos.
Yeah. What did I not do?
You said I don't like Apple. Let's talk about cell phone.
So I wasn't being very
Nice.
respectful.
Yeah,
right. So we're not going to do any of the things I did. We are going to have a great conversation. So I need another volunteer to come up and let's have a great collaborative conversation. Courtney, come on up. This is more like what I want to see. So Courtney, what is an invention you like and how has it impacted your life?
I like my iPod Touch.
And what are some of the fun things that you do with your iPod Touch?
I play games, and I search, and I get on the internet.
Yeah, and I like mine because I can get on the internet and find the news or articles or even read things on it. Now, did you have any devices before that were similar? Or is this the first electronic device like that you've had?
I also like my laptop.
Okay. And what's different about your iPad Touch and your laptop?
My iPod is touchscreen. My laptop you can't touch.
So the touchscreen is really a breakthrough or an advance over the computer. We can't touch our computers and do the same thing, can we? Great. So you see how I'm bouncing my ideas off of Courtney's ideas and I'm really exploring what she likes before I start talking about mine?
Yeah.
That's what I want to have. Thank you, Courtney.
You just made all these tablets that are touchscreen. They can go on the computer. You can play games. It's like a mini computer.
Did you notice how the teacher modeled both inappropriate and appropriate collaborative conversations through the use of role play? That's very, very important in order to get the kids motivated, excited, and able to do it. I'm sure you'd like to learn more about prompts and checklists, so I'll be showing you great examples coming up. Here are some examples of collaborative conversation prompts that a teacher can post during discussions for students to begin the conversation. When they get stuck during the conversation or when the teacher listens in and finds the conversation isn't going deep enough or students aren't responding to comments made by peers in a way that will build group understanding. I will read the speaker prompt for each one, and I'd like you to read the listener prompt. So let's try this. My opinion is, I believe this because what I'm thinking is, here you see a sample checklist a teacher can post during collaborative conversation. Take a look at it. Can a simple checklist like this change the types of conversations you hear in the classroom? What supports or techniques can assist the students during collaborative conversations? We've already talked about the importance of teacher-provided sentence frames and prompts, checklists, and rubrics to guide them with the teacher when the teacher's not around. But what else? One technique I really like is to distribute chart paper during a collaborative conversation in which students are solving a problem presented in the text or when planning a group project. Then have each student write their suggestions on chart paper in a different color marker. Or if not available, write their comments and sign them as they are presented. This way, all students are held accountable for contributing, which can prevent some groups from deteriorating into one or two students doing all the heavy lifting, and quickly shows the teacher each student's contribution. Another suggestion is to have students use a graphic aid, like a foldable, to collect information in text read prior to the small group discussion. These graphic aids will contain the students' ideas and text evidence to support them, with page number references. If the group challenges a student's text evidence, he or she can quickly direct their attention to specific page and paragraphs to review their evidence. This is going to be a habit, and even very young children can readily learn this. There are so many natural places during our instructional day where we can take conversations deeper. For example, we can help students practice active listening and speaking by modeling and monitoring turn-taking during a discussion. We can ask students to make connections using text evidence when responding to a specific text-dependent question that we ask. We can require students to review and explain key ideas in text to a partner in their own words, emphasizing the use of new vocabulary and facts directly from the text. And we can help students access and share their prior knowledge during discussions as it relates to evidence that will help add to the group's growing understanding of a topic or text. But this takes the right kinds of tasks to warrant these kinds of discussions. Not every text or every discussion requires this step. To make it work, the tasks we're asking students to collaborate on, to talk about, must be complex enough. It must have rigor, not just a simple basic lower level question. The task must also require group effort to complete and arrive at a new understanding. This is the problem-solving aspect of collaborative conversations. For example, we might need to examine a text to look for all the evidence available to make an inference about why a character acted the way he did or what his motivation was. And lastly, collaborative conversations to work, group sizes must not be too large. In fact, the recommendation is 5 or less is appropriate size for all members to have the opportunities to contribute at the time to fully express and explore their ideas. One thing that can really help is to use instructional materials that include multiple opportunities for quality conversations. We will be looking at prompts and opportunities found in McGraw-Hill Reading Wonders, which is our new reading program built on the Common Core state standards. Here's one example prompt directly from the new Common Core standards. Reading Wonders program provided after students have been reading multiple selections. The students are asked to work in small groups to compare information from the selections, citing 3 examples that answer questions. They are then asked to present their findings to the group, at which time their peers will comment on their findings. This is all in our new Reading Wonders program at every grade level, each and every lesson. In reality, there are countless places in which we can engage students in collaborative conversations. From the talk about it discussions at the beginning of a week at every grade level to introduce the week's theme to collaborative conversation lessons available on the online Common Core Literacy Handbook for use in whole or small group to teach the techniques needed to successfully engage in these types of discussions. Now, let's take a minute to have our own collaborative conversation to build group understanding and application of these important academic conversations. I would like for you to think and list at least 3 times during the instructional day when you can add or increase collaborative conversations. I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to think throughout the day when you could add some collaborative conversation opportunities. What you could add it during the discussion of the essential question. These are some things that we came up with. Students can connect what they have read to the essential questions or the big idea. During research and inquiry, because the students now, it allows for collaborative conversations since students set research goals, they identify sources, they record information, they organize, summarize information that they have collected, and it's a chance for them to complete and present their projects orally or in small group. And of course during writing, where the students can do some collaborative conversations during their brainstorming stage, peer reviews, peer edits, or even when they're presenting their writing. Those were just some examples. I don't know if they were similar to what you thought. As James Britton so beautifully stated, reading and writing float on a sea of talk. If we improve the quality and depth of talk in our classrooms, we will go a long way to improving our students' reading and writing skills. In review, today we looked at one aspect of the Common Core State Standards that is receiving increased focus. We examined what collaborative conversations are, why they're important, and what shifts have to occur in our classrooms to increase the use of these academic conversations, and some instructional strategies to be effective in doing so. I hope the presentation gave you some ideas for your classrooms and schools, as well as some things to think about as you transition to implementing the Common Core State Standards. I want to thank you for your time and participation today. Here you see my contact info and also a link of previously recorded webinars that you can look at any time. We will follow up with questions and materials requests immediately. And we do have time for a few questions if anybody would like to write or type in any questions for us.
Hi, Marisa. I am getting a few questions. Can you answer this first one, which is from Carla? Should teachers take the role of the leader during collaborative conversations?
Oh, excellent. Let me repeat. Should the teachers take a role as the leader? Was that the question?
Yes.
Well, the goal of a teacher is really to be an active participant in rather than the leader of class discussions. But of course, they model for students, but do not lead the discussion. So yes, they do model initially, but they should just be an active participant. Thank you for that, Carla.
Okay, great. We actually have a couple more here. The second one is from Lauren, and it is, when discussing a reading selection, what types of questions should students ask each other?
That was Laura?
Lauren.
Lauren's questions. Okay, what kinds of questions should students ask each other? Students should be encouraged to have some open-ended questions. That's the kind of questions that are expected, open-ended. Examples like, why did the author do so-and-so, or say so-and-so, or write so-and-so? What does the author mean when he or she wrote so-and-so? What does this piece connect to, and how does it connect to our unit theme? So they should be open-ended. That's really the goal of the questioning.
Okay, thank you. We have another one here from Mary Beth, and I think we have at least one other one after this. And this question is, what about kids with language disabilities? How do we achieve these goals with them?
This was something that we might want to do some pre-teaching with those students, set them up for success. So what I would do, to be honest with you, is maybe talk to them the day before or the morning before and see what they can produce or write, and then extend their sentences for them or prep them for success. Give them some language, some sentence starters, some suggestions, or just have them share a word or two, and we extend for them during the conversation so they don't feel left out. So front load or pre-teach for success, because they need to be included as well.
Mm-hmm. And prepared, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay, this other question from Juliana is, can you give some suggestions for using this in ESE classrooms in which students have difficulty with expressive and or receptive language?
Yeah, this has to be modeled quite a bit. In fact, you may have to take a whole unit and just model. This doesn't come naturally for some. So if you have to model and show, have them judge you, like, what looks appropriate, boys and girls, this or this? Have them. The kids get a kick out of it when you express things in different ways. What's more exciting, boys and girls, if I say it this way or I say it this way? What makes more sense? So have them participate in your modeling. Have them see how you think aloud and how you express your questions and your feelings. So they have a model, because again, this is not easy for so many students. So modeling is key.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it looks like those are all of the questions that we have. Thank you for everyone that participated through the questions and polls. As you can see, you can email us with the contact information that's on the screen now. Also, I've seen that there's been a few questions through our chat area and about the proof for credit, and we can send that to you. I'm keeping track of these names, and also just feel free to email us. Thank you for attending today's webinar.
Thank you.